What is up? What is up, awesome people of the internet? Guys, happy Wednesday. Hopefully you all are having a fantastic start to your day. Guys, we got some stuff to talk about, okay? Here's the deal. Once again, we have another day of blowouts in women's college basketball, but lots of WNBA stuff to talk about. The WNBA may be calling someone's bluff. Housing is probably out the window, and the season is likely going to start a lot earlier. But what does that mean for players, and why is the WNBA making the moves that they're doing? It's very strategic. I'll talk about that more in just a sec. But without further ado, Quita in the Morning starts now.
Are you ready?
Are you ready?
Are you ready? Ready, set, go.
Get ready, get ready, get ready. Again, thank y'all so much for rocking with me. All right, here's the deal. Tell us some good news, Quita. I don't know. I'll tell you some news. You all can determine if it's good for yourselves, okay? I can't determine that for you. Anyway, let's get into the first story, which, surprise, surprise, UConn played again, and they dominated the competition. This game was a special type of game. We did see UConn play the University of South Florida, and they played in Florida. A fun fact, which I think at this point you all should probably know, but USF, their former head coach, Jose Fernandez, he has left USF and is going to the WNBA. And so that's the thing. He's a longtime friend of Gino Auriemma, and so he got honored before the game started. And so I just wanted to say that. But UConn proceeded to give the business to South Florida. I mean, I didn't expect anything different. It was a blowout. Not that interesting of a game. I mean, besides the viral clip of AZ, with the push off, that's about it, honestly. Sarah Strong did her thing. Another double-double for her, 14 points, 10 rebounds. Again, nothing, in my opinion, nothing really to write home about other than the fact that it for sure is a new era for South Florida. Coach Fernandez was like a mainstay at South Florida, and so this is a different thing. He spent 25 years at South Florida. Now he's going over to the WNBA. We'll see what he can actually do in the W, but, something to note. It wasn't an important game besides the fact that, Gino got to reunite with his friend and Paige's new head coach. But besides that, nothing really to write home about. UConn easily win 85-51. Speaking of other easy games, this next game was also a game that was really nothing to write home about, as we saw USC take on St. Mary's. They dominated. Final score 79-33. Again, nothing really to say other than they played a not so good team and they destroyed them. But I will say, I do like St. Mary's. They're called the St. Mary's Gales, which is interesting. I just think that's a really random, interesting name. But yeah, the Gales were not very good against USC. It was pretty easy. Pretty easy. London Jones did come off the bench and do her thing. She had 17 points off the bench in 21 minutes. Yeah, again, nothing to write home about. We didn't, in my opinion, see very exciting games yesterday, at least the games that I was locked into. If you all saw a competitive game, let me know what it was yesterday. But I didn't see any competitive games. Another game I was tapped into was the Fighting Illini. The other two teams are ranked teams. The Fighting Illini, like Illinois, they're not ranked. But I do like to give some love to Illinois-based teams, and yesterday we did see Illinois just easily take down Bellarmine. Again, not much to write home about. 90-41, whatever. But yeah, so far Illinois is 6-0 at home. We'll see what happens when they actually go into Big Ten play. Here's the thing: a lot of these teams, I really don't know what they have to offer because of some of the games that have been played. So I'm not quite sure how good Illinois really is. I think they'll be pretty decent in the Big Ten. And as in decent, I mean they're going to be in the top half of the Big Ten. Possibly might even make the NCAA tournament. I do think they are a team that's improving. They have a really good coach, and yeah, some good stuff is in the future for Illinois. All right, so that is your quick look at the NCAA and some of the games that happened yesterday, which again, blowouts. Again, not much to write home, well, not really anything to write home about. But I did think it was important to just cover it just because. All right. So we go from that to the real news of the day. And I got to tell you, have you all noticed a trend? Have you all noticed a trend in the WNBA? Some news drops about something in the W. And it's usually by like an ESPN or like some sort of bigger entity. And then a day later, Annie Costable writes an article that takes that news so much further, and we are like, what? I say this lady got all the scoops. And since hold on, let me turn off my heat. It's always so loud. It is always so loud. Anyway, ever since she joined Front Office Sports, it feels like it's like banger after banger after banger after what? What in the world? We didn't know that. Yeah. Anyway, you get the picture. It's always something big that she is just randomly dropping on random days. Okay, because usually Mondays is the day that we hear news about the WNBA. But yesterday, on Tuesday, we got some further clarification because remember, guys, there is an extension for the CBA. And so it was what was it, 40-day extension? And it's going to go until January. So we have at least until January of when we'll find out whatever the new CBA agreement is. And, that was the news. And we did hear reporting about the idea of an extended of a updated proposal that, guaranteed $1 million base salary, that provided revenue sharing that could go up to $1.2 million for max players, that could see an average salary of $500K, that could see a minimum salary of over $225K. The team salary cap would go up to $5 million, and it would be directly tied to annual revenue growth for all remaining CBA years. So that was something that we talked about yesterday. This actual graphic is from Christina Williams. who was one of the first to sort of report this thing out. And that was the news we had until yesterday when I was at work. I then do what I normally do. I hop on to the internet, and what do I see? I see this article that talks about the WNBA proposing cutting team housing and starting the season earlier. Now, if you all don't know, this is one of the I would say W moves that the WNBA has, where they do pay for housing for players. The reason why is because, in some of the cities, it's pretty expensive to have housing. And not only that, the WNBA is kind of transient in terms of people just being on the move. Like, you can get traded from a team basically at any point. We see players get cut constantly. And so it's a thing where, someone might be on two teams, two different teams throughout the year. They might even be on three teams throughout the year. And so it made sense for the WNBA to offer housing for players. But according to this article, that might be changing. So let's get into it. But actually, before we do, I do want to talk about something else real quick. I want to talk about the fact that you all may still be trying to figure out what you want to do for your Christmas gifts this year. As I said yesterday, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, they're done. They're in the past. And maybe you missed it, or maybe you just didn't see anything you were interested in buying at that time. And you're trying to figure out what to do now, what to buy that special someone. You want to get something nice. You want to get something affordable, but you also want to get something very, very special. And that is where my friends at Aura Frames come in. They do have a fantastic solution with a gift that feels very, very personal. I told y'all yesterday about me getting my parents a photo album that they loved. And it was a really cool gift. They loved it. Very sentimental. But I tell you, after checking out Aura Frames, I'm like, ooh, actually, I'm going to step that up a notch and give them a digital frame. Because if you know my parents, especially my dad, he has frames everywhere. Frames everywhere of like just photos from over the years, because he just likes to always see photos of his family. And I tell you, I'm getting an Aura frame specifically for my dad, because instead of just seeing one photo in a frame, you can see it photo after photo after photo, and then videos randomly in there as well. And Aura Frames is cool. And the reason why is because you can share photos and videos effortlessly from your phone all year round. And also, if you want to get this as a gift for that special someone, they do have a gift box that is included, a premium gift box with no price tag, but something that shows that you took some intention to get them something very, very nice. So if you like photos, if you know someone who likes photos, you better check out Aura Frames. You cannot wrap memories, but you can frame them. And you can do that with Aura Frames. Make sure to visit Aura Frames to check out their inventory for a limited time. You can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames. Named number one by Wirecutter by using promo code Quita, that is Quita, at checkout. That is auraframes.com, promo code Quita. And this deal is exclusive to listeners of the show. And their frames can sell out fast. So make sure to order yours today and get them in time for the holidays. Make sure to support the show by mentioning Quita in the morning at checkout. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, let's get back to it. So here's the deal. Here's the deal, guys. Again, Annie wrote a fantastic article about this news. And it had my brain sort of spiraling immediately when I saw it on paper. The headline looks cool, and it looks like progress, right? Seven-figure salaries. Well, not for everybody, but for some. A league-wide salary cap that is exploding from, basically 1 million to 5 million. Multiple opportunities for large salaries for players on teams. And an average salary jumping above $500,000. You could say that it looks like the WNBA finally slammed on the gas pedal and was like, you know what? Yes, we're giving these players what they deserve. But as we read the article, you kind of notice the cost for all that is not small. Because according to Annie's article, multiple sources tell her that the WNBA has basically quietly removed team housing from the latest proposals. That's not a minor change. That is, in my opinion, a altering shift to the WNBA and how players live, move, and survive in the league. So here's what's going on and why I think it's happening and, where it all gets really complicated. So first, let's talk about the housing removal. And is this really a big deal? And to that I say yes. Removing housing for the WNBA is a big deal. Housing has been guaranteed in the WNBA for, at this point, just about a decade. Is one of the few predictable things in the league that can be very unpredictable. The WNBA is very unpredictable. You don't know. Just because you make a roster does not mean you're going to still be on the team in 2 weeks. Doesn't mean you're going to be on the team in 2 months. You could be traded to another team. You could just be dropped. You don't know. There's a lot of changes that happen throughout the WNBA season. Now, of course, the bigger players, the better players, generally they're fine. But for roster spots 9 to 12, you don't really know what can happen throughout the season. You might get traded. You might get cut. You might get waived. You might get signed to another team in a hardship, then moved again 2 weeks later. Rookies come into camp fresh off of, a lot of them, college, not knowing will they even be there long enough to unpack their bags. Will they be gone before training camp is over? Will they make it on the roster? And so housing is incredibly important, right? Not just for rookies, but again, as I said, veterans can get moved after a bad week or something like that. Everybody knows how chaotic the WNBA season is. And if you don't know, literally go to the WNBA transactions page. Go to the WNBA transactions page and you can just see how many transactions there are. A lot. And the idea of taking housing off the table would absolutely be a big hit for players, especially players that are younger in the WNBA and players who are towards the bottom half of the league. Players on temporary contracts, they're going to be hit the hardest, right? Remember, towards the end of the season when all these teams are signing hardship contracts. Remember that? Where players were getting waived and another player was getting signed. It happens. It happens. There are players who are bouncing from city to city, right? The ones who get 10-day deals or 2-week hardship contracts and whatnot. Anyway, you get the point. You get the picture. Telling those players to just figure it out, figure out your own housing during constant movement is kind of wild, actually. And my first thoughts was that I wasn't actually surprised that the WNBA would try this. But I do know that this is kind of part of the proposal that won't go over well. It can't. It can't go over well. Not with the way the league operates. Now, in a different situation, if the WNBA was more stable, if roster spots were more stable, if players could kind of guarantee that if they made a roster, they would stay there for the year, then okay, maybe there's a difference. Right? And so I think that this is an interesting negotiation tactic where it's kind of like the WNBA is calling someone's bluff and saying, hey, do you really want the money over everything else? Okay. Well, you're going to lose this. You're going to lose this. What do you think now? Right? And so what are your thoughts? Do you think that this is a real effort by the WNBA to really put something forward that they think could actually work? Do you think that this is a negotiation bluff? Hey, anything is possible. And I do want to hear your comments in the comment section. Like, what do you think about this? Because if the league comes back and says, hey, fine, if the players put up a stink and they like, no, don't get rid of our housing, which is just apartments. That's what it is. The housing is apartments, or like condos or whatever. But it's housing that the players don't have to pay for during the WNBA season. And if WNBA players come back and say, hey, we want housing, we need that needs to be a part of the deal, the WNBA can say, hey, okay, we tried to give you $1 million+ for max players, but if you want housing, okay, salaries may not hit as high as you want. We're gonna have to bring this proposal that had these the zeros, all the zeros behind the numbers for salaries. We're gonna have to drop that down one. And then suddenly, players are choosing between comfort, meaning the ability to know that you have a place to stay when you are in the WNBA, or cold hard cash for the best of players. In my opinion, it's kind of like a classic negotiation tactic, right? You start with something you know the other side will pretty much reject. So you can gain a leverage on the real target. And the real target is the money that players will be getting paid. So, yeah, that's my thoughts there. That's my thoughts. But what do you all think specifically on the housing issue? I'm very curious to see what you all have to say. Let me find my comments. All right. Ronald says, I think it's meant to anger bench players. High-paid players don't need it. It's meant to cause divide between players. Well, I gotta say, that's not a bad tactic if you're the WNBA. That's not a bad tactic because you're right. The higher echelon players don't actually need the housing. It's mainly, in my opinion, is mainly for, basically the non-starters, the non-guarantees players. It's for the players who aren't making that much money. So yeah, I think you have a point, Ronald. I think you have a point. Interesting. Lewis says, a good move because they want outrageous pay. Then you have to offset that. You have to take the bitter with the sweet. I mean, I don't know if $1 million max is outrageous. Actually, I don't think it is. But we haven't seen an actual number said by the Players Association, or a actual percentage said by the Players Association. So, yeah. Polo says, those women need housing. That's one thing they don't need to stress about their living situation. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Like, this is one of those things where, housing has not always been provided for the WNBA. So I want to make that clear. Like, this is not a thing where ever since the beginning of the WNBA, teams have been required to provide housing. That's not true. Like, housing has been a requirement during the WNBA season since 2016. All right, so in 2016, all WNBA teams had to provide housing. There was no choice. You had to provide housing. Now, players, if they wanted to live somewhere else, they could. If they wanted to, but it has to be provided. And so, yeah. Let's see what else you all have to say. Jeff Blaze, thanks so much for the super chat. Appreciate you. Says, talk about the taxes players will pay the pay with the big bucks. They all want 13 million salary cap per team. I haven't heard of 13 million. Maybe I missed something. I don't remember seeing specifically 13 million being put out there. Okay. And I do want to specifically call out the article again. So actually, let me zoom in a little bit. And he writes, under the current CBA, players have multiple options during the regular season and the playoffs for housing. Players can either stay in housing provided by the team or receive a monthly stipend, which varies by city. Players with children under the age of 13 receive a 2-bedroom unit. The monthly stipend for players who opt not to live in team provided housing ranges between $1,177 in Las Vegas to $2,647 in New York. All right. And so, yeah, that is a thing. Also, it sort of varies depending on where you live. So maybe more, maybe less. I'm sure it's probably pretty high for the Golden State Valkyries because it's in California. So it depends. But I did want to say that they either get a monthly stipend or they actually live in the housing provided by the teams. Either way, housing is not something that players have to worry about. If they don't want to during a WNBA season, they can just focus on the actual games that is played. So that's something to note. Okay. All right. Now let's move on to the next topic that Annie talked about in the article. And it is about the season starting earlier. So in the article, it talks about how the WNBA wants to start their season earlier, which could get very, very interesting, I would say. Very, very interesting. What they want to do is move the training camp up to April the 1st. at the earliest. And it's one of those things where I get why they're doing it, but I also get why they're doing it. So the season starting earlier, is it a smart strategy or a logistical mess? I think it's kind of both. That was the second big shock in the article is the season length and starting earlier. Training camp could begin as early as March. This is before the NCAA tournament ends. That is before the WNBA draft even happens, or presumably the WNBA draft would happen, because normally the WNBA draft happens right after the NCAA tournament is over. And that would collide directly with Project B and other international leagues. So let's be honest, guys. Strategically, this is smart for the WNBA. The reason why this is smart, is because it forces players to choose without the WNBA mandating exclusivity. So if it starts mid-March, if the training camp starts mid-March, and the WNBA already has a prioritization rule, which was introduced in the last CBA. It requires players to be in market at the start of training camp, or you're suspended for the entire year. Okay? So, we know Project B is supposed to go until March. We know it's supposed to go until March. At least that's what Project B has told us. Remember, guys, Project B has not started yet. It's going to start in 2026 after the WNBA season is over. And so they still have time. Project B, I'm saying, still has time to make some changes. But Project B was supposed to last basically until March. And the WNBA starts in April. Now the WNBA is basically saying, hey, we want to start mid-March. And we got prioritization, which means that if you are late to training camp, so it means if training camp does indeed start mid-March, let's say March 15th, and players are not back, vets are not back by March 15th in market, well, now you're suspended for the season, which means you don't get paid. You do not get paid. And so the WNBA could say, yes, we are not exclusive. We are not exclusive. We are not forcing players to sign an exclusive deal with the WNBA, meaning that they can't play in any other leagues. You can play in whatever leagues you want, but that league better be done, at least according to this proposal, by mid-March. Because if you are not back in your market, you're suspended. So it kind of puts some pressure to basically say, hey, players got to choose. You want to play over in Europe for a club team? Okay, do it. You want to play in Unrivaled? You want to play in Athletes Unlimited? You want to play in Project B? Go ahead, knock yourselves out. But you better be back earlier. Instead of being back in April, you better be back mid-March. Okay? Because when you miss a part of training camp, yeah, you're suspended. You're suspended. That's fine. Join Project B, join Unrivaled, join whatever you want to join. But you are choosing between them and the long-term security of the WNBA. At least it feels like that's basically what the WNBA is saying. The league is kind of betting that players will choose them. And honestly, many of them will, because of the increases that the WNBA is offering. Of course, not everybody is a top-notch player that can demand, upwards of $2 million in Project B and you know, um, you know, uh, hundreds of thousands for unrivaled. Right? Not everybody can do that. Not everyone can garner that amount of money other places. And so many, given the option of the WNBA, making sure they're able to get back by mid-March, let's just say March 15th, and another league, well, they probably will. A lot of them probably will choose the WNBA. But even if the WNBA wins the battle regarding start time, it's a logistical nightmare. And the reason why it's a logistical nightmare is because of the NCAA tournament, guys. The NCAA tournament is usually over the first week of April. All right, that's when the Final Four and the championship game happens. The draft is usually right after that. And rookies get a tiny, tiny, tiny window to breathe between the championship game, the draft, start of WNBA training camp. If the training camp is now mid-March, how does that work? How does that work? Are you going to move up the draft to early March? February? Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to move the draft up? And just try to work something out with the teams, which is impossible, likely not going to happen? Or are you just going to have rookies entering the league weeks late? And you know who that disadvantages? The rookies. Because imagine you're a bubble player, you're a vet, but you're a bubble player that may or may not make a team. And you started training camp with a team. Let's just say you're with the Chicago Sky. You start training camp with the Chicago Sky on October the 15th, let's just say. The Chicago Sky have some draft picks. It's not until April 10th that the WNBA has their draft. They select their players. The players are likely joining the team, let's just say April 15th. You had a full month of training with the team. You now know the plays. You're now just faster with just doing exactly what the coach wants. And you have a rookie who just came in the door in training camp. And if y'all started at the same time, maybe that rookie might have outshined you and might have actually made the team over you. But because you have a full month of additional work with that team, maybe you make the team instead of the rookie. And so, to me, starting early, yes, sure, it does impact players and what they want to do in the offseason in terms of the leagues they play in. But also, it heavily disadvantages the rookies if they do indeed join the team, whatever team they end up getting drafted to, weeks late. All right? But if you move it up, if you move the draft up, you are drafting players who are still competing. And what are you going to make them choose? You're going to make them choose between possibly playing in the Elite Eight, in the Final Four, or joining a WNBA team that they got drafted to, that they might end up still getting cut from. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Like, this is very interesting territory. Now, for different reasons, we do see, we have seen it in the past for college football, where some players don't end up playing in bowl games because they want to prepare for the draft or whatnot. Now, of course, different type of situation. But when college football players don't play for their bowl teams, like it's a bad look. Like it's really frowned upon, right? It's a thing that really hurts their college team, and like I'm sure the colleges are like pissed about it. Now, of course, different situation. But if the WNBA were to do something like that, where they're drafting players earlier, what are you going to make team players choose? I think the great synergy between college and the WNBA could get broken if the WNBA decides to move up the draft and decides to make players incoming rookies choose. Strategy-wise, yeah, it does make sense to for the WNBA to force veteran players to basically choose, or force other leagues to further bend to the WNBA. But in practice, this seems very, very messy in real life. Very messy. And not a good deal. So, in the end, the money that the WNBA is offering is real. The calendar war is even realer. And what cannot be ignored is why all of this is happening. Project B is offering supposedly 7 figures. Unrivaled is and equity. Unrivaled is offering a good amount of money, well upwards of $200K. They're offering equity. Well, they did for the first season. They're offering flexibility. European teams, in a lot of ways, has historically owned the winter market for women's basketball. And for the first time ever, really, since the WNBA has been a thing, the WNBA is not the main major option, or at least not one of two. It used to be Europe, and then you had the WNBA. Now you got Europe, WNBA, Unrivaled, Project B, Athletes Unlimited. And so the salary proposal the WNBA has, it's a direct reaction to pressure. Pressure from players who opted out of the CBA. Pressure from off-season leagues with big promises and bigger salaries. Pressure from international clubs that, want top players to still choose them. And so the WNBA said, you know what? Yes, we're going to increase the amount of money. But they also had to add in some extra stuff as well. Because again, this is a negotiation. And this is the response. More money, but also more control. Better salaries, but also tighter calendars. Sure, bigger caps, but fewer safety nets in terms of housing. The WNBA is not just negotiating a CBA. They are negotiating the power structure for the global women's basketball game. And so it is what it is. It is what it is. That's what we know. That's what we know. Right now, I am sort of like, wait and see what happens. This is still pretty early in the bargaining stage. Again, the extension is lasting until January, and so we'll see what happens. Everybody is posturing, right? The league is, the players are. Everybody is trying to negotiate and see if they can get the best deal possible, And sometimes in negotiations, you include things that the other side will reject because you're trying to go the long way and trying to go around to get the change that you really want, which for the WNBA's case is probably overall less money or less overall revenue to the players. And they might leverage player housing when teams start, when training camp starts, to get around that and to get to their real destination. So here's the thing. If housing really does disappear for the WNBA and if the season does start earlier without a clean logistical solution for these rookies, especially the college rookies, we are headed into a interesting collision in the W. Not just between players and team owners in the league, but between the entire global basketball ecosystem and the NCAA, which probably is scarier than all of it, than everything else. So salary increases, long overdue, in my opinion. Revenue share, having a real revenue share structure is going to be a big win. Again, we don't know specifically how that structure is set, but it is a win to have a better share than what they have right now. But cutting player housing for players who already kind of live in a little bit of chaos in terms of whether or not they're going to stay on a team or not, it does feel like, in my opinion, the wrong corner to cut. But it's all strategy. It's all strategy. And the earlier start without a real plan to protect rookies, it's a bad look for the best pipeline for the WNBA, which is the NCAA. The WNBA is betting big that players will choose them and that players will feel like they have no real option but to pick the WNBA and to make an agreement. The question is whether or not the final CBA creates a league that top players will choose over others. So, what do y'all think? I've talked a lot. I have talked a lot. What do you all think? What do you think about the news yesterday that hits the hardest? Is it the not including housing in the latest proposal? Is it making the season the making training camp start in March? What is it? What, in your opinion, is the biggest thing with this newest CBA proposal? But one thing I got to say is I think this is far from over. We'll continue to see updates as we go. I don't think it's a done deal that housing will not be included. I think that's just what the most recent proposal says. I don't think it's a done deal necessarily that training camp will start mid-March. That's just what the proposal says. We'll see what the players say about this. We'll see if we see a new proposal come out the works. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Row 2 says WNBA again doing WNBA stuff. Kira says all of this is a hot mess. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, negotiations are messy. Negotiations are messy. Paula, we don't know. We don't know what the rev share percentage is. We don't know. There's a lot about the latest proposal that we don't know. We know that it includes some form of revenue share, but like what exactly that is, the percentage, don't know. We will see what happens. Tulip says, soon as I saw Adam stutter when asked about rev share, I knew he was going to do something sneaky like incorporate it into the salary. Well, Olivia, were the last negotiations just as tense? Here's the thing. There was far less reporting for the last CBA. Far less. And so I kind of want to say no, but at the same time, there wasn't this much reporting. We're seeing a lot more transparency around what's happening in the WNBA, mainly because there's way more journalists covering women's basketball now than ever. And so I don't think so. And when the last CBA was done, like I remember there was a video that was made, and NECA was in it, and I think it was NECA and Kathy, where they were talking about like how basically how awesome the deal was and what it's going to do and whatnot. And so they put on a fantastic face after the deal was done. And while the negotiations were happening, yes, it got extended, but like there wasn't a lot of stuff dropped about how things were going and if things were tense in the last CBA. And so from a public standpoint, no, the last negotiation did not seem as tense publicly because we just didn't know much. There was not that much reporting. Now, guys, we have a lot more reporting. Is it enough? No. I mean, there's still stuff that we still don't know. but we do know way more than before. And so that's something. That is something. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the last negotiation was as tough. Again, a lot of the players that were heavily involved say that they basically say something like, that deal that they made, the last CBA was made to prepare themselves, to prepare the league, and to prepare the overall structure for where the league is now. Because the league was not in a good place when the last CBA was negotiated. And so the players didn't have a lot of leverage at all. They didn't really have any leverage, really, for the last CBA. But this CBA, the WNBA is kind of booming. Like it's a hot product. It is a hot product. And so players have way more leverage than they ever had before. And so that's the thing. All right. Anyway, I gotta go. I thank y'all so much for watching. Let me know what y'all think about this. I know I didn't get to everybody in the chat, but please let me know in the comments what you all think. If y'all could, please do me a huge favor and hit that like button. It really does help the channel out a whole lot. If we can get it to 100 likes before the stream is over, that would be absolutely fantastic. We got a lot of people watching, so if y'all can hit that, that would be great. All right, we'll see what happens. Candace says most of the players are free agents, so players have more power to try to get what they deserve. What we deserve. I mean, yes, basically all the vets besides Lexi Brown and Kalani Brown, which is funny. They have the same last name. They're not related, but they have the same last name. Anyway, those are the only two vets besides the rookies. The rookies who are still on, not the rookies. The players who are still on rookie deals, they're locked in. But besides the players who are on rookie deals, it's only two vets that are locked in. Kalani and Lexi. Everybody else is free game. I don't think free agency adds to leverage. I don't think so. I think the leverage really is the amount of dollars that are competing for women's basketball players. Most notably, Project B, Unrivaled. And also, the leverage is literally, you all saw the last 2 years of the WNBA, right? Crazy numbers. Like it's been wild. And so you also have the fact that so many cities want to get in on the WNBA. And so like there's so much demand for WNBA teams now than ever. There's leverage there. Not because free agency, but because I just think that the WNBA overall is just it's a bigger deal. The average American now knows more about the WNBA than they ever have before. And so I think there's just overall leverage there. Olivia says, I want a good product. That means investing in players is really hard. I mean, here's the thing. The WNBA is basically saying, hey, you can't get both. Can't get housing. You can't get the same schedule that you had this past season. You can't get that and get the revenue that you want. And so that's the thing. That is the thing. Oh, thank you so much, DJ. I appreciate you so much. Appreciate you for the support. And guys, again, as news continues to come along, make sure to check in with the channel. And I will make sure to keep you all up to date as to what is happening. Guys, we do have, I just want to add this real quick. We do have a lot of really awesome games planned for today. And I hope you all plan on watching them. I will be watching them, and I'll cover them if you don't have a chance to watch it. But to me, the top two games today is NC State versus Oklahoma. Make sure to watch that. NC State versus Oklahoma. It is on ESPN2. My time is at 6:15 on ESPN2. That's a game that you got to watch. And then also, right after that, Tennessee versus Stanford at 8:15. Watch it, okay? Because full transparency, I haven't really watched Stanford this year. I haven't. I've seen like clips of games, but I haven't fully seen a full game from Stanford this year, and I can't wait to really see what they can do. And I want to see how Tennessee goes against them. So yeah, Stanford versus Tennessee. And we got NC State versus Oklahoma. I think those are going to be very, very close games. The rest of the games are kind of blowouts. I mean, we got, Central Michigan versus Michigan. Easy blowout in my opinion. Maryland versus Mount St. Mary's. So those two games that I previously mentioned, NC State versus Oklahoma and Tennessee versus Stanford, are probably going to be the most competitive top 25 matchups. All right, so yeah, that's that. Anyway, thank y'all so much for watching. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Tell a neighbor, tell a friend that Quita Loves Sports is on the internet, okay? All right, y'all have a good one. Thank y'all. Ooh, we are almost at 100 likes. That's great. That is awesome. So anyway, farewell. So long. Farewell to you, my friends. Goodbye for now until we meet again. Bye-bye.
Are you ready?
Ready, set, go.